Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Sideline, the Baseline with your hosts, MB and K-Lou. And yep, MB missing. But he's all right, guys. He'll be back with us next week. But as usual, we got the other two characters, the real two guys that lead this show. Hail Murray attempt. And I don't even know how to say this, y'all. You seeing back in the USSR. You know? So we're gonna hear what he has to say about it. But let's go right to that, because I think I just learned something. Guys, I'm a tennis dad, so I just left tennis practice and picking up this little queen. but I heard something there that I could probably pitch in with you talking about AA back in the USSR. So you got anything to say?
All I gotta say is the pendulum in the world is swinging, and thank God for badness. I'm sorry to see people suffer, and the world has to go through this. But it's history repeating itself, and for me as a Jewish descendant of survivors, to see someone stand up and not back down is. I'm as fired up as I've been in a long time and positive. So bring it on.
Makes our struggles seem to stay pale in comparison doesn't even cover. But on the tennis topic, you see where the professional tennis player, how she had to get driven 150 miles to the harbor and take just a civilian boat across to Romania to get to France. And even on a sports aspect, to see all of these Ukrainian athletes, namely the boxing, people know about the Klitschko's, but Vasily Lomachenko, he's a 100 millionaire, and he left paradise in Greece and couldn't get a flight, so he took the worst, what I can only imagine to be the worst drive in the world, over the mountains of Romania to go pick up an AK-47. So you leave silk sheets. To come to, imagine how that's got to feel. They thought it wouldn't be like this. So, Putin thought quick and easy, in and out, and it's not that. So it's good. It's good to see. I hope they can hold out, man. I hope they can hold out.
They'll hold out. I mean, I could tell you from history, my the Germans would be the first to tell you they were more scared of the Russians than we were ever of the Germans. My family left in the pogroms from the Russians in the 1900s to come to America. So, this is history repeating itself. I know people, Argentina getting on planes flying back to go fight. Just because they know if you give up that piece, he's going to take the next. Nothing's stopping this guy. So it's where it's at.
Keeping in with that same energy, Ukrainian ex-tennis player Sergey Stahovsky, I think I probably tore that up.
It's all right.
He just retired a few weeks ago, right? Guess what he doing? Same thing y'all talking about. Went right back home. And picked up a AK-47 and said, "Let's get it." I just found that out actually though at tennis practice with my daughter. The guys were speaking about it because I'm sure it came on the tennis channel, and so they immediately started talking about it. So it's staying within the same vein that you guys are speaking of. Got athletes that had or have prominence are like, look, this is my country. We fight.
Yeah. But it was refreshing to see FIFA, who's doesn't have the best reputation in the world. The Olympics don't have the best reputation in the world. All these people saying no, this behavior ain't gonna stand. And I know it's new for people in this country, but I got to tell you, this is what has scared me for the last 6 years, because I saw that it all sort of absorbing into our society, and that sort of put me down a spiral that I don't want to have to relive. That I'm happy that we finally have the sheets and the curtains are pulled back, and we know where the root of this all is. There's the line in The Godfather, it was Bazzini all along. Well, it's Vlazzini all along.
Yeah.
Trump is just the pimp. He was Tatalia, He was on.
I think so. Imagine the movie that they're going to make out of that Ukrainian president's story.
It's funny you say that. I was like, who's going to make that movie?
Kevin, that he was the voice of Paddington?
What?
That's the Ukrainian president.
Paddington
The
Bear.
bear?
Yeah.
Yes, and he's making Molotov cocktails right now. So Paddington is chucking Molotov cocktails at Tank. Like,
Not the window.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And then because he's the president of a country, as most civilized nations do, we actually sent him a ride out. I think he got a little misreported. I actually read some things on there where we didn't just offer it; we went. Like the ride got there to get him out,
Wow.
and that's when he made his famous line: "I need ammunition, not a ride."
Right.
And
Wow.
it left without him. So it's a little different to just turn it down. It's being reported like, no, it pulled up, and he was like, "Appreciate it, I'm good. I don't need." That just takes so much courage. That
Jason, could you see our favorite guy that had his show doing something like that if he was the president here? Old Jon Stewart. Me and Jason we were huge Jon Stewart guys.
Oh yeah, because back then it was
his new job. What's he doesn't he have a new job coming up?
I don't know.
maybe.
I think I don't know if it's politics or something he's getting ready to do.
I love how he just cuts through. He doesn't do any of the. Yes, he's left leaning, but that's just by coincidence. He'll roast everyone. Like he don't care about.
He used to kill everybody. Yeah, we loved it.
Oh yeah, because did you see his joke on Colbert that actually kind of like ruffled some feathers, where he was like, if there was a chocolate, infection in Hershey, Pennsylvania, I wonder where it came from. The chocolate he got, basically saying the Democratic, hesitancy to say it, originated from a lab, because of the crazy conspiracy theories. But that doesn't mean you discount the obvious that, yes, of course it did escape from the lab, but that doesn't mean they meant to do it. Like, he just cuts through all of it. And
right.
He's
he's hilarious. I miss him. Hearing him night after night. That was pretty cool.
What does that say when it's a comedian or a satire that gives you the truth and the news that doesn't?
Well, that's what's happening right in Ukraine right now, baby. The comedian is showing you how it needs to really be done. When your back's against the wall, that's really when we see what kind of leadership is you have.
You go back 100 years, just Charlie Chaplin, same stuff. It's so weird how history repeats itself time after time, no matter what era. It's the artists, it's the writers, it's the comedians. They help fix society's ills, but they also speak the truth. And sometimes they pay for it with their lives. We had in this country, we had blacklists for a reason, and people were blacklisted because they didn't want them telling the stories.
Have you seen that speech? I mean, of course, it's like the most famous one of Charlie Chaplin in some movie where he goes on that rant. It's 100 years old, nearly truly 100 years old. I remember watching it going like, truly, I thought like, is this like a remake with a look-alike? Because some of the wording and some of the things he was saying, it's what they say today. It's
word for word.
He just doesn't say Facebook. Other than that, I'm telling you, Kevin, it's the same stuff.
Yeah, but even Facebook and even Fox, if you go back and watch Citizen Kane, yellow journalism, and there's big government scared everyone, but there were safeguards and things in place. Not that government was perfect or this country doesn't have its own issues to deal with, which we're learning about education right now. But you could only own a certain amount of radio stations in a certain amount of areas. You could only own a certain amount of newspapers, because if he who controlled the press, which is what Putin's first thing he got the media station from his father. We don't even know if it's his real father, but that's what he took from the guy. And once you control the media, you're game over. So Facebook and Fox, they've got serious blood on their hands. So it'd be interesting to see that they're held accountable when it's all said and done.
Honestly, not just Fox. I know Fox.
All of them, but Fox Fox has got some serious issues.
I used to think that too. I mean, they do. I'm not saying they don't, but I'm just saying, like, honestly, MSNBC. Oh gosh, like some of the things that Rachel Maddow sells just well, but one of the things that actually was an excellent point, just to counterbalance here, but when the propaganda Putin was putting out, Russians themselves believed this was a national security issue for them,
because that's only what they see.
Yeah, they were saying, oh well, if Ukraine joins NATO, They were literally just misrepresenting and misquoting the rules, I should say, whatever, of NATO, saying, oh, if America votes to go to war with Russia, Ukraine has to do it. That's not how NATO works, but they were able to say that loud enough to where Russian citizens were like, gotta do it. Let's go.
It's not only loud enough, but you got to remember there's one station in the country, and that's all they're allowed to listen to. So you hear that message repeated over and over and over, it becomes the truth no matter what it is. I mean, Brazil's the same thing with Globo,
Mm-hmm.
You want one media company, that's it. So, that's
go
ahead.
What's that guy that owns, just to bring it even back to sports? One of the early heroes here was 5-10 years ago. Who's that Russian billionaire that owned that soccer team that criticized Putin and they disappeared him?
He owns Chelsea right now, Abramovich, who actually put the team into trust. He's a Russian billionaire, but he's also Jewish, so he's towing the line right now. He's protecting his asset, but he's also you have to kiss the ring to Putin because they don't know if right now he's still in power. So listen, the fact that the Swiss of all countries in the world, where people go to hide their money. I mean, the fact that they said that's it. That tells you that dealing with the Russian mob is a lot different than dealing with the Italian, the Irish, and the Jews. They play by different rules.
Why would you be strangely differential to the Italian mob? Double A? Is there maybe some connection?
I'm just saying they don't play by the same rules.
Well, I won't be making it on the next week's show, but yeah, I mean, it's just wild that because I'm not saying they're great people, but usually you just can't touch the billionaires if for no other reason than everybody knows them. You can't, but I'm talking actually. I think it was actually a different guy. It was the guy before. It was the oil and gas billionaire.
Yeah. On the Nets,
soccer team or something.
No,
and
the Nets
or something. Yeah, and they like unalived him briefly and like, oh, you own what? Like, and then he just didn't for a minute. Like, it was weird how a civilized country ran like a junior high. I mean, like he just couldn't sit at the cool kids table for a little bit until he took it back. Like they made him take
my
it
bite, bro.
There you go. Yeah.
Listen, just like China and just like Russian, and growing up in Miami with friends from Brazil and Argentina and Colombia, when a new president comes in every 6 months, their money is safer in U.S. banks and U.S. real estate than anywhere else. So when they say freezing assets, there are a lot of people in Sunny Isles, Florida, right now, up North Miami Beach, who've got their money buried in the condos right now that are about to lose their titles because that's where you hide your cash.
Where they at?
Yeah.
Huh?
Which one?
Double A, let me pick up
the whole ocean line.
Oh man,
they call it Little Odessa. That's basically the name.
Yeah. I know. Well, look, we got to move on from there.
Oh yeah. Bring it on.
And Jason, you'll appreciate this because I threw you one bone this show. Art Browse is back, baby. He's hired at Grambling. And Doug Williams is
not happy.
Yeah, not at all. He hates it. Didn't want him hired. They went over his head. Hugh Jackson brought him in. Listen, like I told you guys, I keep it super objective. This is what happens in college sports when winning is the only thing. You'll bring a guy back that doesn't deserve an opportunity. You'll keep a guy that deserves to be fired. You see what I mean? Because they're winners.
Yeah. One thing I never dove into, open it up to me here, but was he ever like complicit to them, or was he just aware and looked the other way? I never got that clarification.
Yeah. He never had anything to do with it, except for, hey, you know, it's being reported. This guy, that guy, it was multiple issues. Like it wasn't like one player. It was like 5-6 players. I think it was like that's who they are as a football team. And this guy, was looking the other way and letting them play. Wasn't suspending anybody. Nobody was when people started getting kicked off the team is because charges were filed in criminal court.
And then it was just for misdirection.
Right, but it wasn't. It wasn't from because he heard about it, and those are layups, Jason. Like you know what I'm saying. Like some things you understand why a coach doesn't have a knee jerk reaction. Other things like that. Listen, listen. I don't want you nowhere around my team with that.
And especially a place like Baylor, where I mean, there's a man behind it. Like I mean, it's inexcusable anywhere. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, like, it does make it almost more egregious. It's like, why did you look the other way? Like, what?
Right.
And these weren't even great players, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. I mean, I will say I have always had a huge problem with why are campus universities in any way involved with those are serious crimes. I've never understood what that's law enforcement only. Like I don't even know why that's a thing. You know what I mean? But
Baylor's a state university, right?
I don't know.
I don't think they're private because I know that Bryles was rumored to be the University of Miami offensive coordinator about a month or two ago, and I'm like, I know there's no way he's making it through that private school compliance office. They don't want the liability, but the big school, the public school, has got a lot more backing that they can maybe take it on. But I mean, that's why he's at Grambling. But I even saw Hughes got problems. They're going after his foundation, and
it's a private Christian school,
right?
Ooh, and you got to admit, Kevin, that's probably some of it. It's probably the redemption angle. It's probably he probably spoke very contrite at his interview.
I'm talking about
Baylor.
Baylor is not Grambling.
What?
That's even worse.
Baylor is. Sorry, Jason.
Ain't no way. Hey, are you serious? You as a Christian?
Baylor University is a private Christian university.
Wow.
And a nationally ranked research institution.
Yeah.
Then how did the TCU games get so heated? I'm serious.
Listen, all I can do is tell you what it is.
The most foul-mouthed team Miami ever played was BYU. That's the truth.
Listen, man. Although I'll say the one time BYU stepped on the field with a grimier team with Coastal Carolina. Y'all remember that game?
Oh, yes.
And Myrtle Beach was like, we'll stab you right here. Like right here, we'll pull a knife. So that was a little weird, yeah. And then they assaulted the quarterback during the interception. They took his wallet. It was the wildest. But Baylor I never knew that. I had no clue. Wow.
Yes. So but Grambling is a historically black college, and one of the best coaches ever to coach there for feels like 500 years, and that was Eddie Robinson. And there's that's where he coached, and so it has a lot of prestige when it comes to football in that arena. And so it's one of those, Notre Dame type, Holy Grail type schools as it relates to being a part of that football family. And so that's just so you understand what Doug Williams was trying to protect,
That's what I was going to say.
It wasn't about, Art Briles. It was more about what that university and that football program especially stands for.
Exactly.
So, well, okay, that leads to my next. I was going to ask, isn't that where the first black Super Bowl starting quarterback, isn't that where Doug Williams went? So so I'm assuming Doug Williams must have come out against this.
And correct. He coached there for a while, didn't he?
He
yeah. But I mean, look at Penn State. Did they ever recover from that smear? What went on there all those years?
Oh, clearly they have. We don't even talk about it anymore.
So
they're better. They're better now than. Well, I mean, you know what I mean.
No, they're not better than they were under.
They're not better than they were before.
Not 50 years ago. I'm talking about when that first happened. They really hadn't been doing anything for a decade.
Yeah, but you thought they were done and dead for a while after that happened.
Right. Well, that's how your guy, the Texans coach, really came out when he took that job and brought them out of the grave. That's what got him the Texans job. Can't even think of his name. Help me. He's at Alabama now. He's the OC at Alabama.
Oh, not O'Brien.
Yes, O'Brien.
O'Brien.
O'Brien was the head football coach at
Penn State when that went down.
Penn State,
Oh,
right
wow.
after,
Went to New England.
Right.
After, yeah. What would you defend could you defend the hire of Art Briles?
Of Art Briles? No, you know what side of the fence I stand on.
Yeah. No. I mean, if he's contrite and
it's egregious, but it's exactly what we've been watching, and that's what I've been telling you guys, like throughout watching this carousel, of coaches that aren't that great of people that we're now putting on a podium, standing them in front of our kids, and our expectations is what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
do you think it's more of a response because now you got Deion in that world, and we used to be number one dog in HBCU football, or
Hugh Jackson did that though.
Right. Yeah. This has nothing to do. Like, I hear you.
Right.
Is this an issue if Deion's not in that world? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Because
he's brought so much, the eye back on that world. He's like saying, we can do it with NIL right now, and and we can become, maybe become the Power Six.
We'll have a spinoff on actually we didn't talk about with Deion, but
right.
But yeah, I understand that. But again, it has more to do with that being what it is in that arena, and Doug Williams speaking out against it.
Right.
So those two things made it a headline story. Now, going back to Deion, because I think we can transition into this, and Jason will really love this. We'll stay on football for a second. Deion says that there were about, I think it was 5 jobs that he interviewed for, and they turned him down.
I thought it was 3, but it may.
I mean, 3. My bad.
Yeah, 3 was what I remember, but it could have been 5.
Right. I read this article this is like 2 weeks ago.
It was a while ago, but it's your brother was right. Pac was right. He's leaving after 2 years. He's going for another job, and I was like, he interviewed
now.
Yeah, he interviewed for 3 jobs and didn't get it.
Who said no now? Who said no now?
And that's what he said. He said one guy, and I'm gonna mess up his quote, but you can pull it up, Jason. Yeah. But his quote was something like, the guy basically looked at me and said, "When can you start?" That's how impressive he was in the interview. But yeah, he didn't get that one either.
Something doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it says TCU is one of the jobs.
So FSU was one of them?
TCU. That's what it says.
Texas Christian. Yeah, because Gary Patterson retired, right?
Boy, that makes that's kind of got
forced out. Oh, he got forced out. They pushed him out after he'd been there a long time.
That's why he's already on Texas staff as a consultant or something.
Dude, that's talent. How would they not hire Deion? That's perfect.
Right. Yeah, but they basically turned him down. Three jobs already. Turned him down. And so he said, I guess my mission is still to be here. Yeah. Yep.
Or he waits one more year for that FSU job to open up.
One more year, and that's another question. Like, this guy record is worse, than the coach they fired before, but yeah, he still has life.
He beat Manny Diaz.
What are we doing?
Okay. Well, now at one of these, it did say I was very, very good. If I may say, in the interviews, I balled. That is what he would say. One of the interviews, I was so darn good. The guy asked me, "Could I start? When could I start?"
There it is.
Not lying. Yeah, I'm not lying. When could you really start? So 3 times in one sentence, I'm not lying. When could you start? It says, and I told him when it was possible, but they went in another direction. So that sounds like maybe he may have, his time. He was gonna not abandon Jackson State, and then maybe they wanted a head start on recruiting. I don't know, but TCU sounds so automatic for Dallas.
Jason, you gonna buy that?
No, I'm just saying.
Okay.
they didn't meet his number, or something happened.
He says, whenever asked about the pros, he said, "I don't want to coach pros. I'm not a pro guy. Right. I don't have patience for rich guys with problems."
Right.
Oh man,
different beast.
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
So,
I mean,
so
Kaylee with the handoff.
yeah, I know, you saw that. Hey, Callie, be a mom. Hurry. No, you're good, baby. So look. So I know Mike and Double A always talk about a standard. Well, there's a real standard going on right now, and it's called Duke basketball. And it's and the headliner of that standard, the creator of that standard, is getting ready to coach his last game. And it's being rumored that there's been a ticket for $250,000 that somebody paid to see that standard.
Wow.
Should we speak about standards anymore? Wasn't Kevin the one who every time MB and Double A started talking about that standard word, I tried to tell you what a standard is? They said the tickets that are there are rivaling and beating Super Bowl tickets. Yes, I said it at the standard. I'll just start calling them the standard. Since there are standards other than there, then this is the standard. When you're comparing yourself, you're comparing yourself to Super Bowl tickets. So, Double A, I just don't understand. I hate the fact that MB's not on because I'd love to hear his soliloquy about how to feel the standard, no matter what your situation is or what your record is. Something I've never heard of in my life, but it only applies to Miami because he's never said nobody else has a standard. That's in the toilet. Duke is ranked number 4 right now. They're saying, a number 2 seed. Who cares? Listen, we worry about brackets around here and who ends up in our bracket. We don't concern ourselves with seeding. That doesn't matter. But this is a team that's, Coach K has had in the mix ever since he got the first recruiting class with Johnny Dawkins, and that just the floodgates opened. Jay Billis and his recruiting. Wow. Tommy Amaker came, and Grant and Christian Laettner and all the names behind him that just continue, including Zion Williams, Kyrie Irving. That's in the, it just the floodgates open and we're here. This guy's coaching his last game, and this is what a standard looks like. Standing room only. Let me buy your ticket. I'll pay whatever. Who else? And that's what I'm saying. Who else at Notre Dame? If we go to the pros and say when Mike Tomlin gets ready to leave, who else gets a send off like this? Lou Holtz didn't at Notre Dame. You know what I mean? Like
he wasn't there that long.
That's the closest comparison modern era. You know what I'm saying? Where you could pay big money for tickets. Let's not talk about Bear Bryant and all them, because it just wasn't the same.
It's interesting because this is also the Team USA coach for umpteen years too. But
who brought that out of the cellar?
Right.
Should I say?
Right. It's interesting because Shula went out with a puff. Tom Landry got never even got to say goodbye. What would
Bobby Knight was thrown out.
So Paterno left in the worst disgrace of all time. You're thinking of that type of legendary coach.
But Dean Smith didn't get this kind of send off.
No,
Dean Smith, who Coach K looks up to.
What's crazy? You're playing in a bandbox, so that so there's very few tickets to begin with. But
there they go.
No, I'm not going to give that excuse.
Find a way to hate, Jason.
I'm not going to hate, but it's not even his last game. You got the ACC tournament, and then you got whatever they do in the NCAA.
That's why it's so crazy.
That's
this game is that important.
Right.
So if I could ask a legitimate question, I don't know the answer.
Right.
I grew up in Charlotte briefly from the age of 12 to 16. And up there, it was split down the middle. You were Duke or Carolina. And there was, and if you were Carolina, which Carolina? Were you a poser or did you really go there? So you know that's true.
By
You
the
know
way,
that's,
your shirt looks Carolina blue.
it's great, but it's great. It's great. I'm not a Tar Heels fan, but it's so Roy Williams. I mean, how does he stack up and compare? I'm not necessarily all time, but was last year his last year, I believe.
It was, and
So
we never heard about it.
okay, yeah, okay. I literally was just asking. So well, then
We
that
never
tells
heard
me that it's a pretty big deal because he was.
That's because it's really one standard. It
Yeah.
really is. And we play around with this, and I threw it out there, but I didn't want to keep fighting MB because it was pointless because his heart is there. And his logic is completely missing, but his heart is in his argument. But we don't even talk about coaches like this, man.
Not anymore.
There'll be a movie about this dude, man. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the fact that he can pull LeBron aside and be like, "Hey, let's maybe not." Like, that's kind of a big deal to be able to do that as a college coach.
He pulled.
You know?
He had to pull Kobe aside before he ever pulled LeBron aside.
Mhm.
What also adds to it is he literally had a health scare on the bench
Correct.
a week or
We
two
go.
ago.
Yeah.
And I think that
That's not the
definitely
first time either.
no
That's why I think we've been headed to this. That happened a couple years ago.
with
It
the hip.
happened a year ago. You know what I'm saying? It's been bouts. Like
Okay.
there's something else obviously going on,
right?
and he understands that it's time past that. But I still want to just focus on the fact that the world is stopping
For this guy
for
his
yeah,
exit. Yeah,
during this time. Look what else we're talked about this morning.
it's a Lou Gehrig exit is what it is. It's I'm the luckiest man on the face of this earth. Not that we think that there's something health wise maybe going on with him, but that's the kind of send off he's getting.
I do have a friend that told me, and he's not even into basketball at all. And this is a couple of years ago and I'm not into basketball, obviously, but this is when I kind of first learned the hallowed grounds, if you will, like Augusta for golf. He was up there for a football camp, and he was telling me this story because remember Cutcliffe was there, and how Peyton Manning goes to trains in the offseason with Cutcliffe and blah blah blah. And of course, Peyton wasn't there, obviously, but for this particular football camp, there was a lull in it. There was something, and they were able to go onto the court and just play a little bit of whatever. And he went into this huge deal about how one of the assistants there was like, "Hey, I know you guys aren't realizing just how amazing it is where your feet are right now." He's like, "But just know, like Peyton Manning almost couldn't." And he told a story about how when Peyton and Eli were there, they got to know twice. They got to know twice. And then finally made like another enough of whatever call for them to come open it and let them just to shoot on the court. So like Peyton Manning got to know twice about can I go shoot on the court? Like that's a little wild. That's wild.
Jason, who are you? That's what they were saying. Like,
and dude, when he was telling me that story, I'm like, what did they call their own number? They called Domino's or something? Like I couldn't believe. And then he was like, listen, man, and he was saying, we didn't get a yes. The door's just open and everything's okay because we're supposed to be doing that. Like, so it's like, and he was just making a huge deal about, and so and that was actually right when I met Kevin. I think it was one of the times we were busy and I kind of casually mentioned it, but that kind of.
And as arrogant as that sounds, guys, if you're on the other side of it and you're in the family, it's open to you. And not saying anybody can go in the camera, but because you're alumni, because you're one of us, all of a sudden things are way different. And it's just not I would take people there all the time to walk them through, just to let you know, like if you came up there with me or and you wanted to see it, I'm getting you in. You know what I mean? Like it's not. So it's as arrogant as it sounds. It's like, sorry, but you're not one of us. Who are you? Like
it's Duke and Duke.
What's that? From now, would you say that like the Augusta Nationals comparison, like is that
it's hallowed ground? It's Yankee Stadium for college basketball to walk on Cameron's floor in that setting. There's nothing like it. Death Valley, Clemson, that kind of, the Orange Bowl was like that. These are, maybe
There they
Dodge.
go. There
you
they
know.
go. There they go. The
It was
orange
legit.
bowl,
Hey,
you hear
we didn't lose a game for like 15 years in that place.
and nobody cared. You still couldn't back it out.
It wasn't 5,000 people. It was 80,000 people, man.
Jason, Clemson was still outselling them every game.
There ain't nothing left to do there, man.
I don't care what you say. Every game they were still selling out.
Like, yep. Hey, we don't need a beach. We don't need but
Southeast Louisiana. You want to go watch Southeast Louisiana play, or you want to go to the beach? You want to go in the boat?
Would you say? And I'm truly because would you say the close second is what? In Indiana?
Lambeau?
No, I mean college
basketball.
College basketball.
Indiana used to be the Dean Dome
or basketball, the Dean Dome, the place 10 minutes down the road.
Yeah,
is next in line for that kind of fanfare. But you see the gap. Like we just talked about Roy Williams, we talked about Dean Smith. Now, Dean Smith, it was a much bigger deal when he retired, much bigger as far as Roy Williams is concerned, but it still wasn't the level. Like you're gonna see like Zion. I went to the Zion game where he blew a tie rod. You remember? I went to that game. Yeah. So, and the amount of celebrity that was in there, I'll put it this way. I tried to meet Barack because he was coming in. I had heard he was coming. Like that's how. Listen, I was just like, bump everybody else. Can you go see me? Can you let me meet Barack? Like, and I had kind of an inside deal, but then that kind of fell through. He couldn't make it happen, but he tried because he was another alumni.
Yeah,
had an inside deal.
Who was Barack's bagman? What was his
name? Correct.
Yeah.
Used to, play basketball with him all the time. Yeah, Reggie. So he played at Duke. So so we were trying to work Reggie to see if we could see Barack. And but listen, like you saw the who's who. It was like I guess what Staples Center looks like every night. It was that kind of deal. Like everybody, it was crazy. And that was for Zion. Zion and a Duke Carolina game.
I think when John Wooden was at UCLA, probably back in the 60s, 70s, that was probably the same sort of hallowed ground, the way they looked at him.
Yes.
I would say that's comparing apples to apples, if we think about it.
One thing though that I never realized till Kevin kind of drove it home over our mini lunches, where there were much more calories on my side of the table than his. But dude, I'd have like a 9-minute order, and then he'd said salad. So
that's discipline, man.
Jesus, man. Like, and so I don't even know why.
I'm like, man, I don't even eat lunch, really. Like, so.
And you know what? I don't now. It's weird. I don't. It's weird. I'm thinking, but Kevin, he would just preach and preach and preach that. Yeah, it's all good, athletic, blah, blah, blah. But Duke doesn't compromise academically, I should say.
Right.
And so it's weird that I knew that without ever knowing that from my time in Charlotte, because you'd have PE majors, for the Tar Heels. And even then they're faking the tests. You know what I mean? And so there definitely was a very clear dividing line up there with regards to, I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, there's also the obvious, if you went to Duke, you're probably a doctor. Like, so it's like there's a little, whatever. And like we make the joke in football, if you ran it up on Duke, okay, a cardiologist missed a tackle, but so it is weird to see the success sustained with zero academic compromise. Like, where's the scandals? Yeah. Where's the, I don't want to say anything,
No, I remember. And we argued about that. Who was right?
There was a scandal. Don't think Duke went up, not basketball, but there was a scandal at Duke.
I said it.
And it was faulty. It was a lie.
It was.
And I told Jason, he was so happy to throw it in my face. And I was like, listen, if you told me one of them did it, maybe. Right?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, yeah. But you told me a group of Duke kids We're doing that. What I tell you, it's
don't make
no what. And the only reason why I knew that, bro, we would spend summers like every athlete will tell you in college, at least back in the day. I don't know what they're doing now, but back in the day, we don't go home for the summers. Like you go home like for a week or two, you come right back, and then you're doing all season training. You know, but everybody's there. The women's and men's soccer team, the women's and men's lacrosse and field hockey. Every single team is there. So really, it's just a whole yard full of athletes. Because not a lot of kids want to come back to Durham to pay those prices for a summer school class. So you basically there with a bunch of athletes. And what we found out really quickly, guys, was we were all the same type of people. So it's like, I wasn't telling Jason,
you people. No.
I wasn't telling Jason what they wouldn't do. I was really telling them what I wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. And I looked at them like they were me, because when we interacted, you like, dang, he's cool too. She's cool too. And you find out you're like the same type of people. So I was like, and I knew that maybe on your own, you're pretty capable of doing anything, but with your big brother or your little sister or your, baby brother around, stuff changes and somebody's going to pull you out of that situation. And that's what I knew. That's the only reason I knew it was a lie, Jason.
Well, and plus, I was only throwing it out for, let's be honest.
Jason, the best way to explain Duke is that think about the nerds that'll kick your ass on the court. They were cool to be nerds before nerds became cool. In this day and age, it's cool to be a nerd. But going back to the 80s, those were the nerds. And you got them on a basketball court, they'd outgame you, they outball you. And people would freak out. They was like, "What is going on here?"
Yeah, I mean
that was the reputation.
It's almost, honestly, man, it's almost like Duke, Vanderbilt. They got to do something. They got to get some extra scholarships.
Georgia Tech had that same sort of reputation as engineers. It wasn't an easy school to go to.
Correct.
But football players aren't engineers. Georgia Tech's got some very transferable credits, if we all know what I'm talking about. So they're
look, I ain't gonna lie. I know I was one of them ones, like, when you find out when guys transferred out, their GPAs went to like 4 point something. We're like, he was dumb. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. Because we went and took like
transfer.
Doesn't
that's how nerdy we was. We wanted to transfer to get a better GPA.
Yeah.
You want that Duke and Duke on that resume, man. It don't matter what that GPA is.
What's that one course Georgia Tech has that's like the football play? It's like horticulture or something. It's farming.
Jesus.
It's like they got rocket scientists or landscaping. Okay, well you're clearly playing football. So, but I feel like Duke, going back to the basketball thing, like Coach K. Whenever I never watched college basketball because there was too many games. Same reason I don't watch baseball or hockey. There's the volume of it's too much for me.
Right.
But from like the second I ever should, I've always known who Coach K was. So it's kind of a thing. Like, name another coach that's the first letter and it's just Coach this. So I mean, it's to somebody not outside looking in.
99% of the people still couldn't spell his name if even if you put it in front of them.
Yeah.
Why would you take it back to a realistic explanation, Double A? I was trying to make it people just can't say Graffinsky. Like, why do you gotta like take it there?
But two decades ago, 3 decades. How many decades is it now? 80, 90s. It's 4 decades, right? This guy's coached 40 years there.
Absolutely.
When's the last time you seen a guy with one job for 40 years?
Come on now, that used to be the norm for all the elite
in the old days.
Coaches. Not just basketball, but football as well. And when I say not necessarily 40, but they did 25, easy. And so Gene Cady probably did 30 something at Purdue. Like, you had Bobby Knight that did probably 30 something at Indiana. Dean Smith, obviously. You got to kind of cheat with Roy and say Kansas and Carolina. You probably got 35 within that. it was a lot more than normal. But guys don't get an opportunity anymore to build a program or to turn a program around. Coach K always told the story how his AD Bill Butters saved his life because they were trying to fire him, and he
the
stuck
first
his
few
neck
years.
out and said, "No, this is our guy." And right behind him came Johnny Dawkins. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that changed the trajectory of his coaching. I mean, we never would have heard of him.
Gerald Henderson with Dawkins on that team. I can't remember.
Right.
Billis.
Well, no, I'm not. He came later, but Billis was.
Who was the Amaker? Who was the big white goon in the middle? The big center. Then he played for the Sixers. Was it Jaminski?
Danny Ferry.
Oh no, before Ferry.
Yeah, that's
there was another guy.
Said the Sixers. That's who Danny Ferry.
Yeah, but I'm thinking. I'm blanking on the name.
Right.
Then you had Hurley. Then you had Grant. And you had that crew, and then you had the Battier years.
You just skipped right over Christian Laettner like he ain't the greatest name to ever come out.
Oh my God!
Hey, that's a little hate, Jason. That's a little hate. And they don't mention the greatest name to ever come out of there.
I will say I never realized how old he was. Dude was born in 47.
Oh, who? Coach K?
Yeah. Wow. And he took the job in 1980.
Came out of Army coaching for Bobby Knight.
For Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
Dude has been there longer than I've existed. So, like that is amazing to think that he's been at that job longer than I've been alive.
My favorite player was Hurley. I to this day can only imagine what he would have done in today's NBA, especially. It would have been wild to see.
I will say this. I think he's the last of the Mohicans, man, when it comes to that, like meaning like he's the last guy to do that, to be able to have a job. Because think about it. We watched Gary Patterson put TCU on the map, and then they said, okay, you're not doing what you were doing 5 years ago. We got to move on. So they just don't allow you to do it anymore, Jason. You can't afford to have, 3 bad seasons in a row. Like, and you would think, like, even a guy like Dabo, you would think he'd have that kind of room. Let's see it and watch what happens.
He doesn't.
And you know what's crazy? This year it's a 3-loss season, which anywhere else in college football, you're like, no, it's like, well, don't do it.
We're like celebrating, we building stuff.
Oh man. Like if he loses 3 games next year, they're going to be like, well,
they'll be calling.
You won't again, and I don't know. You know what? I don't know.
That's how we are as a society. That's no knock on Clemson.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. Like it has nothing to do with Clemson. It's just like we think, hey, you put us here, and anything lower, you're a failure. Like, didn't I put us here? Like,
yeah.
Wasn't it Eddie Murphy? What have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
Wasn't that his routine? It was a song of that. But I think he had a routine. He used to go.
It's the news cycle. I mean, the set when things can spin TikTok on a dime. TikTok, which let's not knock it. I hated it until I got it. It's actually kind of cool. But it just, it just kind of, but by the same token, an unintended benefit. How do we start the show? Art Briles is working again, right? I mean, you know what I mean? So, it can, your past can kind of get away from you pretty quickly too nowadays. And so, you take the good with the bad. Bad coaches get,
you land on your feet. But what we're arguing at this point is you shouldn't be kicked out. That's what we're arguing. Like you should go out, because you want to, especially when you built things like, again, I'm going right back to Gary Patterson. When you built that, like we weren't saying TCU. We didn't know what TCU was or where it was. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, it was the nastiest defense you could play. Like it went from who is TCU to like, I don't want my team suiting up against them.
You mean that frog team LT played for? Like that's all they were. Yeah. And
Jason, that they listen, the 4-2-5 as we know it in college,
they invented it.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you
kind
go.
of speaking to the contrast here, in case anybody was wondering, we should put a counter at the bottom. Juwan Howard still hadn't apologized. I just want to go ahead and put that out there. He did his little reaction, but he did not.
It's already out of the news cycle. You have the Big Ten tournament. They'll go through that. They'll get seeded and right back.
The funny part is that, you know, people thought that needed to happen. Like, I'm like, not in today's world. You double down. Yeah, I should have knocked him out. Like, that's what today's world says. You double down on the ignorance, on the bad behavior.
and what's crazy is Izzo. You know, I mean, think about it. I mean, the man that he kind of, you know, I guess Michigan State, like, you know, it's a rival, it's blah blah. He feels sorry for Juwan Howard. Like, how is this? It has turned. The narrative has turned to this poor man that lost his temper, and I'm just screaming at the TV. I'm losing my temper. You know, I'm like, how is he the victim? And it's turned to it. It's turned to that.
That's where we are. I think, you know, these college coaches are more suited for the NFL because one of the things they should be is leader of young men. And that's just not what we're getting a lot of times. And it keeps being dropped to the wayside. And then we wonder a lot of times when we're seeing this bad behavior by the young adults on the court or the field or off the field or off the court, we're still like blaming them and shocked and appalled. Well, look at the leadership they're getting. You know what I'm saying? Like look where the importance is being placed. And it's not on ethics.
No, ethics and civics aren't even taught anymore in this country. But that's what, you know, coming back for me to Miami, that's what I'm encouraged by, that we have Mario. I know this guy doesn't have intentions on going to the NFL. This guy loves to go out and recruit. That's, you know, so for a college coach, that's everything right now. If you're not recruiting, you know, that's what you're putting out on the field. Those kids, the talent will overtake everything else, right?
Well, hopefully he's a recruiter of standards, because I will say
we'll
this.
Find out.
You guys will laugh at this because it's Duke football, but about 5 years ago, one of the coaches were recruiting. Duke coach was recruiting here, and I ran into him, and he's like, "Oh, have you do you know the DN at such and such school?" And I was like, "Yeah, I kind of heard about him." Next question, bro. Next question. This will let you guys know why I knew
is he a Duke guy?
That's exactly what was said, Jason.
Right.
That's exactly what was said. Like, is he a Duke guy?
Right.
Period. He didn't ask me or say a bunch of things that this is what we need here. He knew I went there.
Does he pass the smell test?
Ask me that question.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
But I'll say, you know, a lot of places,
the standard. That's a real standard.
A lot of places try to riff on that, you know, as far as like, and then those, and it's corny. And I'm not saying Duke's not real. I'm going to circle it back around, but it's a lot of places you hear them say stupid things after a loss, like, well, we didn't play, you know, Michigan football. Okay, well, what is that? Snapping the ball.
Exactly.
So it is kind of refreshing to see, you know, that a place has it and it means something dang different, you know. So it's a, like, if I sent little man somewhere, you know, I almost ain't got to drop him off at Duke. I don't know, man. You know, you could just be like, he's good.
You're like, you know? You're like, drive by. We'll see you.
You hope you can drop him off there, you know.
Oh, yeah. well, I mean, I'll do this. Raleigh, you know what I mean? I'll get him a nice quality Uber from the airport. But, you know, if he goes anywhere else, even a place like Clemson, you know, where nobody on the planet would ever question Dabo's character and integrity and blah, blah, blah. Okay, but the Clemson, you know, the university is a big place, and you know, and so it is wild to see the ability to not let the outside world in and kind of break it up, you know, and so, you know, I'm sure they try the same terminology in the recruit. Is he a Notre Dame guy? You know, I'm sure somebody would probably try that, you know, but what it could but the difference though is you know, that response could be like, "Hey, he stabbed a guy last summer, but great speed off the ball." And then they're like, "Great speed off the ball," like, you know, just you know, and it goes. So
somebody I don't know where I read it, but maybe it was a tweet or something. But someone's like, "Where's the 30-30 on Urban and the University of Florida team?" Want to talk about some stories?
Hey, that's gonna put people in prison,
Right?
You know, there's some statute of limitations that aren't cleared yet.
That's some of the craziest stories there are.
Yeah, you know, I was pretty cool with one of the guys that played there during that time, and yeah, it's a whole lot more that went on.
Right. I remember talking to a scout for the Dolphins at one time, and we were talking about that tight end, and he's like, "Yeah, we got asked," and we're like, "Yeah, there's no way we're drafting him."
Listen, there's two stories that I heard from a person way before that happened that I'm like, what? Like, didn't believe him until that happened. Didn't believe him. Like, I'm like, yeah, right. That's only in the movies. Like, he be under the jail, and then it happened, and I was like, oh, like
Gainesville.
What's wild though is I don't know how to say. I mean, Aaron Hernandez as a player. I mean, but it was a system thing. I mean, I guess what I'm saying.
He's a monster.
He was a monster.
Sorry. Two more sentences, you'll get what I'm saying. I'm saying he was drafted in the 5th round is what I'm saying. So of course he was great. But what I'm saying is he never had the talent to match the level of criminality. Okay, he would have. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yes. God. Yeah. Who could? No.
There wouldn't even be a Gronk. He was better than Gronk before Gronk was Gronk.
Yeah,
but he was first. He was first
there.
Yeah, he was first round talent, but because of the behavior, that's why he went 5th.
Right.
No. I'm saying the level of criminality.
So he played running back in the NFL. What tight end you know? Sat back there and got a.
But Deebo Samuel. But what I'm saying, not a tight end, a receiver. But what I'm saying is,
we've seen plenty of receivers do it. I said tight end,
but I'm not. That's not a knock on his athleticism. It's how did the criminality get by? That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say. Well, yeah, I'm like, yeah. He would have to be the greatest football player of all time.
If you meet a Florida guy that came through his time, like, you'd easily see how the criminality outweighed his ability. Like, he was on another level when it came to that.
Yeah, didn't he pull a gun in a strip club in college or something?
He shot into a car.
It's wow.
Like, I don't understand. With what they got background wise on him, how did he ever even get in the NFL? Like, that background check they talk about only is for some people to keep them out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or to save you a few pennies, because that should have got him never, got him blocked out of the league.
And then how, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Oakland probably would have boosted his draft.
Papa Eddie, what's up?
New England do it. That made it even stranger. Do you almost feel like that helped him make it as long as he did?
Yeah, it's Belichick. He had a father figure and compartmentalized it and said these are the rules, until he couldn't handle the rules no more. It was a time bomb waiting to blow, and he blew.
He'd have been dropping bodies before training camp in Oakland.
Oh, golly, man. It's time to end. It's time to end now.
End this show.
Hey, we appreciate y'all stopping through, pulling up, hollering at us, because you know us. Hail Mary. And back in the USSR, K-Lou, MB, we are gone.
Peace.
Later.
All right, guys.